The doors to the throne room opened with a sound like thunder. Ji-hoon Park walked through them alone, his black diplomatic uniform crisp and perfect. His footsteps echoed across the massive hall, each one measured and calm. Around him, alien beings of 100 different species watched from the galleries above. Some whispered to each other. Most simply stared. At the far end of the hall sat High Executor Tharn on a throne made from the hull of a conquered warship. The Vrexian leader was massive, nearly 3 meters tall, with scales that gleamed like polished metal under the harsh lights. His forearms rested on the throne's armrests, claws clicking impatiently against the ancient metal. Ji-hoon stopped exactly 10 meters from the throne. He did not bow. He did not lower his eyes. He simply stood there, waiting. Tharn leaned forward, his mouth opening to reveal rows of sharp teeth. "You are the human ambassador?" "I am Ambassador Ji-hoon Park, representing the United Earth Government," Ji-hoon said. His voice carried clearly through the hall despite being quiet. "I have come to discuss your recent actions against my world." Several of the Vrexian courtiers laughed. The sound was like rocks grinding together. Tharn himself smiled, a gesture that looked more like a threat display. "Actions?" Tharn repeated. "We sent a compliance fleet to your primitive world. We offered you a place in our empire. You should be grateful." Ji-hoon's expression did not change. "Your compliance fleet destroyed 3 of our cities, Bizen, Lagos, and Vancouver. 40,000 civilians died in those attacks. Men, women, and children who had done nothing to you." "A demonstration," Tharn said, waving one hand dismissively, "to show you the consequences of defiance. Surely you understand this. Your world is young. You have been in space for what, 80 years? We have ruled this galaxy for 3,000. You cannot possibly resist us?" From her position to the side of the throne, Counselor Myra watched the human carefully. She was Caltharian, a species the Vrexians had conquered 2 centuries ago. She had learned to read body language well during those years. This human showed no fear. That was unusual. Most species came here trembling, ready to surrender before negotiations even began. Ji-hoon reached into his jacket slowly. Several Vrexian guards tensed, hands moving to their weapons. He pulled out a small datapad and held it up. "According to our records, your compliance fleet consisted of 200 warships. They entered our solar system 27 days ago. They broadcast their demands. When we asked for time to consider, they opened fire on our coastal cities." Ji-hoon paused, his eyes fixed on Tharn. "You attacked our home?" "Yes," Tharn said, seeming confused by the statement of obvious fact. "And now you will surrender, or we will return and finish what we started. Your entire species will be enslaved or eliminated. Those are your only options." Ji-hoon put the datapad away. "I see, and where is your compliance fleet now?" Tharn frowned. "Returning to our territory, of course. Their mission was complete." "Interesting," Ji-hoon said. "Because according to our tracking, only 73 ships from that fleet have left our solar system. The other 127 seem to have disappeared." The throne room went quiet. Tharn's claws stopped clicking. He stared at the human for a long moment. "You are lying," he said finally. "Your primitive sensors cannot track our ships accurately." "Perhaps," Ji-hoon agreed. "Or perhaps you should contact your fleet commander and verify their numbers." Tharn gestured to one of his aides, who hurried away. The silence in the room grew heavier. Myra found herself holding her breath. She had seen many species come to this throne room over the years. She had never seen one speak with such confidence. After several minutes, the aide returned. He approached Tharn and whispered something urgent in his ear. The High Executor's scales seemed to darken, a sign of anger in his species. "There has been some confusion in the fleet reports," Tharn said, his voice tight. "It is being investigated. This changes nothing. You will surrender, or we will send a real fleet. 10,000 ships. 20,000. However many it takes to burn your world to ash." Ji-hoon nodded slowly. "You could do that. Your empire is vast. Your military is powerful. But I have a question for you, High Executor. In your 3,000 years of conquest, how many species have you encountered that fought back effectively? None, Tharn said proudly. All kneel eventually. Exactly, Jehun said. All the species you have conquered were peaceful. They had developed space travel through curiosity and exploration. They built their civilizations on cooperation and growth. He paused. Humanity is different. Different how? Tharn asked, though he sounded less certain now. We did not reach for the stars because we dreamed of peace, Jehun said. We reached for them because we knew eventually we would find something dangerous out here. We knew because our entire history has taught us one lesson over and over again. There's always another threat. Always another war. Always another enemy. He took a step forward. The guards tensed, but Jehun made no threatening move. He simply stood there, looking up at the massive alien ruler. Earth has known war for its entire existence. We have fought each other for millions of years. We have developed every kind of weapon you can imagine and many you cannot. We have created and destroyed civilizations. We have split the atom and harnessed its power for both creation and destruction. We have survived ice ages, plagues, asteroid impacts, and our own worst impulses. Jihun's voice remained calm, but something in it made Myra's skin prickle. You sent 200 ships to attack our home. You killed 40,000 of our people. You thought this would make us surrender. He shook his head slowly. High Executor, you have made a terrible mistake. You have shown us that the universe is exactly as dangerous as we always feared. You have justified every weapon we built, every soldier we trained, every defense we prepared. Are you threatening me? Tharn demanded, rising from his throne. In my own throne room? No, Jehun said quietly. I am explaining to you what you have done. You attacked our home. Now you will learn what humanity does when you attack our home. He turned and walked toward the doors. The guards looked at Tharn, uncertain whether to stop the human. Tharn was too shocked to give an order. At the doorway, Jehun stopped and looked back. You have 27 days to withdraw all Vrexian military forces from human space. The same amount of time you gave us. If you do not, there will be consequences. You cannot threaten the Vrexian Empire. Tharn roared. I am not threatening, Jehun said. I am informing you of reality. 27 days. Then he was gone? The doors closing behind him with that same thunder sound, Admiral Borum Lee was waiting in the corridor outside. She fell into step beside Jehun as they walked toward their shuttle. Did he believe you? She asked quietly. He will, Jehun said. Once the reports start coming in, the missing ships are just the beginning. And if he sends the larger fleet he threatened? Jehun's expression was cold. Then we show him what else has been hiding in our solar system for the past 80 years. Behind them, in the throne room, High Executor Tharn sat heavily on his throne. For the first time in a very long time, he felt something he had almost forgotten. He felt afraid. Dr. Haijin Choi sat in her office deep within the Vrexian Intelligence Ministry, staring at the data on her screens. She had been analyzing human technology for the past 3 days, ever since the strange meeting with their ambassador. The numbers did not make sense. She was good at her job. She had to be. The Vrexians did not tolerate failure, even from their allied species. Haijin had survived by being useful, by finding patterns that others missed. Right now, those patterns were telling her something impossible. Her supervisor, a Vrexian named Krull, entered without knocking. He never did. Well? He demanded. What have you found about these humans? Haijin gestured to her main screen. Their publicly available technology suggests they achieved faster-than-light travel only 80 years ago. Their ships are small. Their weapons are primitive. Their industrial capacity is limited to one star system. So they are no threat, Krull said, satisfied. That is what the data says, Haijin agreed carefully. But there are problems with this analysis. Krull's scales rippled with impatience. What problems? Haijin brought up a new file. 3 years ago, we detected unusual energy signatures near the edge of human space. We dismissed them as natural phenomena. 2 years ago, a survey ship reported seeing a vessel that matched no known design in the Kuiper Belt region. The report was filed and forgotten. She pulled up more files, her fingers moving quickly across her console. 6 months ago, our automated monitoring stations detected brief, faster-than-light signatures in areas where humans claim to have no presence. Each time, our investigation teams found nothing. So? Kroll said. Sensor errors. Equipment malfunction. Perhaps, Haijin said. But then there are the missing patrol ships. Kroll went very still. What missing patrol ships? Since the compliance fleet returned from Earth, we have lost contact with 4 patrol groups. All of them were operating near human space. No distress signals. No debris fields. They simply stopped reporting. Haijin pulled up a star map. Red markers showed where the patrols had disappeared. They formed a rough circle around Earth's solar system. This could be coincidence, Kroll said, but his voice had lost its certainty. It could be, Haijin agreed. Except for one more thing. I analyzed the compliance fleet's combat logs from their attack on Earth. They fired on 3 cities as ordered. But in their sensor records, I found something strange. There were brief contacts with unidentified objects in Earth's orbit. The fleet commander dismissed them as satellites or space debris. She zoomed in on the relevant data. But satellites do not move like this. These objects were maneuvering, observing, recording everything. Kroll leaned closer to the screen. How large were these objects? Small, perhaps 10 meters across. Easy to miss if you were not looking for them. But there were hundreds of them all across the human system. And the compliance fleet did nothing about them? Haijin shook her head. They did not consider them a threat. After all, humans are primitive. Far from the Rexian capital near Jupiter's largest moon, Commander Daeho Kim watched his instruments carefully. His ship, the Whisper, was designed to be invisible. It used no active sensors. It generated almost no heat signature. Right now, it was sitting in a crater on Ganymede's surface, completely powered down except for passive systems. A Rexian patrol group was passing nearby. 5 ships, moving in standard formation. They had no idea they were being watched. Daeho's communications officer, Mireille Song, turned from her station. Should we let them pass, sir? Daeho considered the question. The Whisper was one of 20 stealth ships humanity had deployed around its territory. Their mission was simple: observe and gather intelligence. They were not supposed to engage, but these Rexians were getting too close to one of the hidden defense platforms. If they detected it, months of careful preparation would be wasted. Prepare the drone package, Daeho said quietly. Make it look like a natural event. Mireille nodded and began working. The Whisper carried several types of equipment for creating false sensor readings. In this case, they needed something that would seem like a random meteor impact. A small drone launched from the Whisper, invisible against the moon's surface. It positioned itself carefully, then activated a small explosive charge. The detonation sent a shower of ice and rock toward the Rexian patrol. The lead Rexian ship detected the debris field and changed course, moving away from the hidden platform. The patrol continued on, unaware they had been manipulated. Nice work, Daeho said. He entered a note in his log. The information would be transmitted back to Earth during the next scheduled communication window. Sir, Mireille said, I am receiving a message from Earth Command. They are asking for an update on Rexian fleet movements. Tell them the patrols are increasing, Daeho said. They are getting nervous. Good. Back in her office, Haijin had continued her analysis. What she found made her call Kroll back immediately. What is it now? Kroll demanded when he arrived. Haijin displayed a timeline. I have been reviewing historical records of human space activity. According to their official statements, they achieved faster-than-light capability 80 years ago. Yes, we know this. But I found something in our own archives, Haijin continued. 150 years ago, we lost a deep space probe in a remote sector. It was never recovered. The sector was close to human space. She brought up another file. 130 years ago, another probe malfunctioned and went silent, also near human territory. In fact, over the past 150 years, we have lost 7 unmanned probes in or near what is now human space. Krull stared at the data. You think the humans found them? I think the humans have been aware of alien technology much longer than they have admitted, Hyjin said. I think they found our probes, studied them, and learned from them. While we thought they were primitive, they were actually preparing. This is speculation, Krull said, but he sounded uncertain. Then explain the missing patrol ships, Hyjin challenged. Explain the unidentified objects in Earth orbit. Explain how a species that should be 200 years behind us technologically managed to make 127 warships disappear. Krull was quiet for a long moment. Have you reported this to the High Executor? Not yet. I wanted to verify my findings first. Do not report it, Krull said suddenly. Not yet. We need more proof. Hyjin looked at him carefully. She understood what he was really saying. If they reported this and were wrong, they would be punished for causing panic. If they reported it and were right, they would be punished for not discovering it sooner. I will continue investigating, she said. After Krull left, Hyjin sat alone in her office, staring at the data. She thought about her own species, the Caltharians. They had been peaceful explorers when the Vrexians found them. They had welcomed the larger empire, thinking they would be partners. Instead, they became servants. Second-class citizens in their own territory, Hyjin had learned to survive by being useful to the Vrexians. But deep down, she had never stopped hating them. And now, looking at the data about humanity, she felt something she had not felt in years. Hope. These humans were different. They had not trusted the universe to be kind. They had prepared for the worst. And when the worst came, they had been ready. Hyjin began typing a new analysis report. But before she saved it to the official system, she made a copy. A secret copy that she encrypted with codes the Vrexians did not know she had. If the humans were truly fighting back, they might need allies. They might need information about Vrexian military capabilities and weaknesses. And Hyjin knew those weaknesses very well. She was not ready to betray her employers yet. But she was preparing. Just like the humans had prepared. Far above Earth, Admiral Borum Lee stood on the bridge of the orbital station, looking down at her homeworld. The planet looked peaceful from here, beautiful. It was hard to believe that 3 of its cities had been attacked less than a month ago. Admiral, her operations officer said, we are receiving reports from all stealth units. The Vrexian patrols are increasing in frequency, but they still have not detected our platforms. Good, Borum said. Make sure all units maintain strict communications discipline. No active sensors unless absolutely necessary. She turned to look at a tactical display showing the entire solar system. Red markers showed Vrexian ships. Blue markers showed human assets. There were far more blue markers than anyone except a handful of people knew about. For 80 years, humanity had been building. Every space station had hidden weapons. Every asteroid mining operation had a military purpose. Every scientific mission had gathered intelligence. And now, the Vrexians were finally starting to realize they had made a mistake. Borum allowed herself a small smile. The real war had not even started yet. High Executor Tharn stood before the holographic display in his war room, watching 30,000 red dots move toward the human home system. It was the largest fleet the Vrexian Empire had assembled in a century. More than enough to crush any resistance. They will surrender when they see this, he said to his assembled commanders. No species can stand against such force. Sub-Commander Ralph, one of his senior officers, shifted uncomfortably. High Executor, what about the intelligence reports? The ones suggesting humans may have hidden capabilities. Tharn dismissed the concern with a wave of his hand. Rumors and sensor errors. Dr. Choi sees threats in shadows. The humans are primitives who got lucky against our compliance fleet. This time they will not be lucky. The fleet had been traveling for 6 days now. They were approaching the asteroid belt that ringed the human solar system. Tharn watched the display with satisfaction. Soon, this would be over. Then, one of the red dots disappeared. Tharn frowned. What happened there? The tactical officer checked his console. We lost telemetry from the destroyer Venom High Executor. Attempting to re-establish contact. Another dot vanished. Then 3 more. Then a dozen. Report! Tharn roared. The tactical officer's scales had gone pale. We are losing ships, High Executor. The Vanguard is under attack. I am receiving fragmented distress signals. They report ... objects moving at high velocity. Kinetic impacts. From where? Tharn demanded. Where are the human ships? There are no ships, High Executor, just ... rocks. On the bridge of the Vrexian battlecruiser Dominator, Captain Vesh watched in horror as a chunk of asteroid the size of a building slammed into his escort destroyer. The ship's shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, did nothing against solid matter moving at thousands of kilometers per second. The destroyer crumpled like paper. Evasive maneuvers, Vesh ordered. Locate the source of these projectiles. His sensor officer was frantically working. Sir, there are no launch signatures. The asteroids themselves are moving. Something is pushing them, but I cannot detect any engines or propulsion systems. Another impact. This time, a chunk of ice and metal hit the Dominator's shields. They held, but the ship shuddered from the force. Return fire, Vesh ordered. At what, sir? His weapons officer asked desperately. There are thousands of asteroids out there. We cannot destroy them all. In the asteroid belt, hidden among the countless rocks, General Seojin Kwan watched the Vrexian fleet's confusion with grim satisfaction. He stood in the command center of Firebase Alpha, one of 50 platforms humanity had built throughout the belt over the past 30 years. Fire control, adjust targeting to the next cluster, he ordered. Focus on their capital ships. The Firebase used magnetic accelerators built into selected asteroids. They could push these space rocks to incredible speeds with no visible engine signature. To the Vrexians, it looked like the asteroids themselves were attacking. Sir, the enemy fleet is attempting to navigate through the belt, his tactical officer reported. Let them try, Seogen said. Activate the second wave. Throughout the asteroid belt, more platforms came online. These ones launched different weapons. Swarms of tiny objects, each no bigger than a baseball, scattered into the void. They moved without propulsion, using tiny attitude thrusters to adjust their trajectories. They were almost impossible to detect against the background radiation of space. Each one carried a small nuclear warhead. Back on the command ship, Tharn watched as his fleet's casualty count climbed. 200 ships lost. 500. 1,000? Pull them back, he ordered. Withdraw from the asteroid belt. But it was too late for many. The tiny weapons Seoxing had launched reached their targets. They did not explode on impact. Instead, they attached themselves to Vrexian ships and waited. Then, all at once, they detonated. Hundreds of Vrexian vessels died in silent nuclear fire. Their shields could stop energy weapons, but these explosions happened against their hulls. Where the shields were weakest, Ralph stood beside Tharn, his expression grave. High Executor, we have lost 7,000 ships. The fleet is in disarray. How? Tharn whispered. How are they doing this? Where are their ships? I do not know, High Executor, Ralph said. But I recommend we withdraw and reassess. Tharn's pride would not allow it. No, send in the second wave. Have them go around the asteroid belt. We will attack from multiple directions. On Earth, in a bunker beneath the ruins of Bizin Youngmihan coordinated the civilian resistance. She had lost her family when the Vrexians attacked the city. Now, she and thousands of others worked to support the military effort. We have confirmation, her assistant said. The Vrexian fleet is splitting up. Some ships are moving to flank our position. Youngmi pulled up a display showing the orbital defenses. Alert Admiral Lee, tell her the enemy is doing exactly what we predicted. She thought about her daughter, who had died in the bombardment. Only 8 years old. The Vrexians had killed her without a second thought. Just to make a point, Youngmi had been a teacher before the attack. She had never imagined herself as a warrior. But the Vrexians had changed that. They had turned every human into a soldier, whether they wore a uniform or not. "Ma'am," her assistant said quietly, "the news feeds are asking for a statement. People are scared. They see the size of the Vrexian fleet." Youngmi thought for a moment, then recorded a brief message. "The Vrexians came to our world and murdered our children. They thought this would make us weak. They were wrong. Every weapon we fire, every ship we destroy, we do it for those we lost. The Vrexians will learn that humanity does not forgive. We do not forget. And we never surrender." The message went out across Earth and its colonies. In living rooms and shelters, people watched. Some cried. Some prayed. But all of them felt the same burning determination. In orbit above Earth, Admiral Boram Lee received the tactical updates. The Vrexian fleet was trying to surround the human homeworld. They still thought they could win through sheer numbers. "Activate the orbital platforms," she ordered. "Show them what else we have been hiding." Around Earth, the Moon, and Mars, platforms that had been disguised as communications satellites suddenly came to life. They unfolded like mechanical flowers, revealing massive railguns. These weapons had been built over decades, positioned carefully, supplied through legitimate space industry operations. The Vrexians had been watching, but they had seen what they expected to see: a young species building communications networks and scientific stations. They had not seen the weapons the railguns fired. Solid projectiles, moving at a significant fraction of the speed of light, crossed the distance to the Vrexian fleet in seconds. Unlike the asteroids, these were aimed with computer precision. Vrexian ships began dying by the hundreds. Their shields could not stop the kinetic projectiles. Their armor crumpled under the impacts. Within minutes, another 3,000 vessels were destroyed or disabled. Tharn stared at the casualty reports, unable to process what he was seeing. His fleet had been cut in half, and he still had not seen a single human warship. "Where are they?" he demanded. "Where are their ships?" Ralph checked the sensors again. "High Executor, I am detecting new contacts. Multiple vessels emerging from behind the moon." The display updated. Blue dots appeared, moving to intercept the Vrexian fleet. But there were only 100 of them, tiny compared to the remaining Vrexian forces. "Finally," Tharn said. "Their actual fleet? Destroy them." But as the two forces closed, Ralph noticed something. "High Executor, the human ships are much smaller than ours. Corvette-sized at most. Why would they engage with such small vessels?" The answer came quickly. The human ships moved in ways Vrexian vessels could not match. They dodged incoming fire with impossible agility. They worked together like a single organism, each ship covering the other's dod, and they carried weapons the Vrexians had never seen before. Particle beams that bypassed shields, missiles that could change direction mid-flight, electronic warfare systems that blinded Vrexian sensors. Captain Vesh, still alive on the Dominator, found his ship surrounded by 3 human corvettes. They were so small, so fast. His weapons could not track them. Then his systems began failing. One by one, his ship's functions shut down. Weapons offline. Engines offline. Life support flickering. "They are hacking us," his technical officer reported in disbelief. "Somehow, they are accessing our systems remotely." Vesh's last thought before his ship went completely dark was that the humans had spent 80 years studying Vrexian technology. They knew every system, every weakness, every vulnerability, and they had prepared accordingly. Tadarn made his decision. Full retreat. All ships withdraw from human space immediately. As the Vrexian fleet turned and fled, Boram allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. They had lost less than 50 ships. The Vrexians had lost more than 20,000, but she felt no joy. Only grim determination. This was not victory. This was just the beginning. On his command ship, fleeing back toward Vrexian space, Tharn finally understood what the human ambassador had been trying to tell him. You attacked our home, and now humanity was going to make him pay for that mistake. Ambassador Ji-hoon Park stood once again in the Vrexian throne room. But this time, the atmosphere was very different. The galleries were empty. No audience watched. Only High Executor Tharn and a handful of his closest advisors were present. Tharn looked older somehow. The defeat of his fleet had shaken him. He no longer sat confidently on his throne. Instead, he stood, pacing like a caged animal. What do you want? Tharn asked without preamble. Your fleet could have pursued mine. You could have destroyed us completely. But you let us retreat. Why? Because we are not like you, Ji-hoon said simply. We do not kill just to prove we can. We kill when we must to defend ourselves. You destroyed 20,000 ships. Tharn roared. You call that defense? You brought 30,000 ships to exterminate my species, Ji-hoon replied calmly. Yes, I call that defense. But I am not here to debate morality with you. I am here with demands. Tharn's scales rippled with anger, but he remained silent, waiting. Ji-hoon pulled out a datapad. First, you will pay reparations for the 40,000 civilians you murdered. The sum is detailed here. Second, you will cede 3 border systems to human control. Third, you will publicly acknowledge your unprovoked attack and apologize to the families of the dead. Impossible, Tharn said. The Empire will never agree to such terms. We do not apologize. We do not pay tribute. We are the Vrexian Empire. You were the Vrexian Empire, Ji-hoon corrected. Now you are a wounded empire watching its subject species plan rebellion. We have been monitoring your communications. The Caltharians are preparing to declare independence. So are the Borthans and the Meekles. They see what we did to your fleet, and they have hope again? Tharn looked to Ralph, who nodded confirmation. It is true, High Executor. There have been incidents, protests, attacks on our occupation forces. Then we will crush them too. Tharn said, With what fleet? Ji-hoon asked. You have just lost half your military. It will take you years to rebuild, and every day you spend rebuilding, more species will rebel. Your empire is crumbling, Tharn. You just do not see it yet. Before Tharn could respond, an alarm sounded. Ralph checked his communicator, his expression darkening. High Executor, we are receiving reports from the frontier. Human ships have been spotted in Caltharian space. They are assisting the rebels. Ji-hoon smiled slightly. Yes, we decided to help those who want freedom. After all, you taught us that the strong can do what they want and the weak must suffer. Right now, you are the weak ones. Tharn lunged forward, but Ralph grabbed his arm. High Executor, please. We cannot afford another war. Far from the Vrexian capital, Captain Yoonji Nam stood on the bridge of the Incheon, humanity's first true dreadnought. The ship had been built in secret over the past 15 years, assembled in the outer reaches of the solar system where Vrexian sensors never looked. It was not as large as a Vrexian capital ship, but it was faster, more heavily armed, and crewed by people who had spent their entire lives preparing for war. Captain, her tactical officer said, we have made contact with the Caltharian resistance. They are requesting assistance against a Vrexian patrol force. Show me, Yoonji said. The holographic display showed a Caltharian colony world. 3 Vrexian cruisers were in orbit, bombarding rebel positions on the surface. A handful of Caltharian civilian ships were trying to evacuate people, but the Vrexians were shooting them down. Yoonji felt anger burn in her chest. She had seen the images from Busan, Lagos, and Vancouver. She knew what it looked like when civilians died for no reason. All hands, battle stations, she ordered. Prepare to engage. The Incheon dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Immediately, the Vrexian cruisers detected them and turned to face the new threat. Single ship, the Vrexian commander broadcast. You are outnumbered. Withdraw or be destroyed. Yoonji did not respond. She simply gave the order. Fire, the Incheon's main guns spoke. Particle beams lanced across space, punching through Rexian shields as if they were not there. The first cruiser exploded before it could return fire. The other two Rexians began launching missiles and firing their own weapons. But the Ancient's point defense systems swatted the missiles from space, and its shields absorbed the energy weapons with ease. "Target the second vessel," Youngji said. "Fire when ready." The second Rexian cruiser died. The third tried to flee, but the Ancient was faster. It ran down the fleeing ship and destroyed it with a single salvo on the surface of the Caltharian colony. People watched the sky as the Vrexian ships burned. They could barely believe what they were seeing. For 200 years, the Vrexians had been invincible. Now, a single human ship had destroyed 3 of their cruisers in less than 5 minutes. Yunji opened a communication channel to the surface. "This is Captain Yongi Nam of the United Earthship Inchin. You are under the protection of humanity now. Any Vrexian forces that threaten you will be destroyed." The Caltharian resistance leader, a woman named Keth, responded with tears in her eyes. "Thank you. Thank you so much." "Do not thank us yet," Yunji said. "We need your help. We need information about Vrexian military installations, supply lines, and fleet movements. Can you provide this?" "Yes," Keth said immediately. "Anything you need." In his office, still analyzing data, Dr. Haijin Choi made a decision. She encrypted all her research, all her findings about Vrexian weaknesses, and sent it to a secure location. Then she composed a message. It was addressed to the Human Intelligence Services. She had no idea if they would receive it or if they would trust her. But she had to try. The message was simple. "I am Caltharian. I have worked for the Vrexians for 20 years. I have information about their military capabilities and strategic weaknesses. I want to help you defeat them. If you are interested, respond to this channel." She sent the message and waited, her heart pounding. If the Vrexians discovered what she had done, she would be executed. But she did not care anymore. She had spent too many years serving her oppressors. The response came 3 hours later. Just 2 words: "We are interested." Back on Earth in a command center deep underground, Taijin Yu reviewed the latest reports. He had been an architect before the war, designing buildings and parks. Now he designed fortifications and defense networks. "We have successfully established defensive positions in 7 former Vrexian systems," he reported to Admiral Borum. "The local populations are cooperating. They are providing intelligence and logistical support." Borum studied the strategic map. The Vrexian Empire was vast, stretching across hundreds of systems. Humanity could not possibly conquer all of it. But they did not need to. "We are not building an empire," she said. "We are liberating people. Every species we free becomes an ally. Every system that declares independence weakens Vrexian control. We do not need to defeat them militarily. We just need to make their empire ungovernable." "And if they sue for peace?" Taijin asked. "Then we negotiate from a position of strength," Borum said. "But not yet. They need to understand that the old order is over. They need to know that the age of Vrexian domination has ended." In the Vrexian throne room, Jihun prepared to leave. Tharn had not agreed to the demands, but he had not rejected them either. That was progress. "Ambassador," Tharn said as Jihun reached the door, "why are you doing this? You could simply destroy us and take what you want." Jihun turned back. "Because we remember what it is like to be powerless. We remember what it is like to watch our people die and be unable to stop it. We will not become what you are, Tharn. We will fight for freedom, not conquest." "Noble words," Tharn said bitterly. "But in the end, power is all that matters." "That is where you are wrong," Jihun said. "Power without purpose is meaningless. You had power for 3,000 years, and what did you build? An empire of slaves. Worlds that hate you. Species that pray for your downfall." He paused. "We will build something better." As Jihun left, Tharn slumped into his throne. Ralph approached carefully. "High Executor, what should we do?" Tharn was silent for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "Contact our remaining fleet commanders. Tell them to withdraw from contested systems. Consolidate our forces around our core worlds. We cannot win this war. You are giving up? Ralph asked in surprise. I am being realistic, Tharn said wearily. The humans have shown us that our empire was built on an illusion. We thought ourselves strong because we fought only the weak. Now we face an enemy that is truly dangerous, and we are not prepared. He looked at the tactical displays, showing rebel activity spreading across the empire like wildfire. Tell the ambassador we will negotiate, Tharn said. But on one condition. I want to know how they did it. How they prepared so well. How they knew we would come. Ralph nodded and left to send the message. Alone in the throne room, Tharn thought about the human ambassador's words. You attacked our home. Such a simple statement. But behind it lay 80 years of preparation. Decades of building weapons in secret. Generations of people who never forgot that the universe was dangerous. The humans had been right to prepare. And the Vrexians had paid the price for their arrogance. 6 months had passed since the failed Vrexian invasion. In that time, 17 species had declared independence from the Empire. The Vrexian military, once feared across the galaxy, had retreated to their core systems. Their empire, which had lasted 3,000 years, was falling apart. President Jiwan Kong stood at the podium in the United Earth Government Assembly, preparing to address both her own people and representatives from across the galaxy. The room was filled with delegates from dozens of worlds, species that had never imagined they would be free. Today marks a new beginning, Jiwan said, her voice carrying through the chamber. Not just for humanity, but for all species who value freedom over tyranny. The Vrexian Empire came to Earth and demanded our surrender. They killed 40,000 of our people to prove their power. They believed we would kneel. She paused, looking at the assembled representatives. They were wrong. And because they were wrong, you are all here today, free. In the audience, Liaison Keth sat with her fellow Caltharians. She still could not quite believe it. Her people had been slaves for 2 centuries. Now they had their own government again, their own military, their own future, all because humanity had refused to surrender on the Vrexian homeworld. High Executor Tharn sat in a much smaller room than before. The Grand Throne Room was closed. The Empire had no need for such displays anymore. Now he met with his council in private, discussing survival rather than conquest. The humans have sent their final terms, Ralph said, placing a datapad on the table. They are less harsh than I expected. Tharn picked up the pad and read. The humans demanded reparations for their dead. They wanted 3 border systems. They insisted on war crimes trials for the officers who had ordered the bombardment of Earth, and they demanded the Vrexian Empire officially dissolve, to be replaced by a republic with representatives from all species. They could have demanded total surrender, Tharn said quietly. They could have destroyed our homeworld. After what we did to them, they would have been justified. But they did not, Ralph said. Why? Because they are better than us, Tharn admitted. It was painful to say, but he had learned the truth these past months. They fight to defend, not to dominate. They free slaves instead of taking new ones. They build alliances instead of demanding tribute. He signed the document with a heavy hand. Send this to Ambassador Park. Tell him we accept all terms. Far from both Earth and the Vrexian homeworld, Captain Yunji Nam stood on the bridge of the Inchin, overlooking a newly liberated planet. Her ship had fought in 12 engagements over the past 6 months. She had destroyed dozens of Vrexian vessels. She had saved millions of lives, but she felt no pride. Only weariness. Captain, her communications officer said, we are receiving a message from Earth. The peace treaty has been signed. Yunji nodded slowly. Send word to all ships. Hostilities have ended. We are to begin peacekeeping operations. She looked at her crew. Many of them were young, barely out of the academy when the war started. They had grown up during these 6 months. Learned what it meant to fight and die for a cause. Well done, everyone, she said. You fought well. Now comes the harder part. Building peace. On Earth, in the rebuilt city of Bizan, a monument stood where the Vrexian bombardment had struck. 40,000 names were carved into black stone, arranged in the order they had died. At the top, in large letters, were the words, "They attacked our home, we defended our galaxy." Ambassador Ji-hoon Park stood before the monument with Admiral Boram Lee. They did not speak. There was nothing to say that the dead did not already know. Jahoon's sister's name was there. Lee Min-na. She had been a doctor. She had been trying to help injured people when the second bombardment hit. She died doing what she loved, helping others. "Do you think it was worth it?" Boram asked quietly. "All the death. All the destruction." Ji-hoon considered the question carefully. "I think we had no choice. The Vrexians gave us two options, surrender or die. We created a third option, fight back. And now we are one of the major powers in the galaxy," Boram said. "In 6 months we went from a single system to controlling dozens. We have allies, territory, influence. Some people are calling it the human empire." "It is not an empire," Ji-hoon said firmly. "We do not rule these worlds. We liberated them. They chose to ally with us." But we have power now," Boram pressed. "What happens when the next threat comes? What happens when another species looks at us and sees what the Vrexians once were?" Ji-hoon turned to look at her. "Then we show them the difference. We show them that power can be used for protection, not oppression. We show them that strength does not require cruelty." At the Space Academy orbiting Earth, young Sora stood in formation with her fellow cadets. They were the first class to graduate since the war ended. Soon, they would be assigned to ships, sent out to patrol the new borders, to protect the fragile peace. The Academy Commandant, a veteran of the war, addressed them. "You are the future of humanity's presence in space. You did not fight in the war, but you will carry its lessons. You will remember that we were once the victims, that we know what it is like to be powerless. And you will use that knowledge to ensure you never become what the Vrexians were." Sora listened carefully. She had been only 16 when the Vrexians attacked. She remembered the fear, the uncertainty. She remembered watching the news reports. Seeing the destroyed cities dot, she had joined the Academy because she never wanted to feel that helpless again. But she also joined because she believed in what humanity was trying to build. A galaxy where everyone had the right to live free from fear. In a quiet office on the Caltharian homeworld, Dr. Hyjin Choi met with human intelligence officers. Over the past months, she had provided valuable information about Vrexian military systems, strategic planning, and weaknesses. Her intelligence had saved lives. "What will you do now?" one of the officers asked her. "The war is over. You could return home, help rebuild your world." Hyjin shook her head. "I have spent 20 years studying how to defeat enemies. I would like to spend the next 20 studying how to prevent wars. If you will have me, I would like to work with the new Galactic Council, to help build systems that prevent what happened to my people from happening to anyone else." The officer smiled. "I think we can arrange that." Back in the assembly chamber, President Ji-won Kang continued her speech. "We have created something new here. The Free Worlds Alliance. Not an empire. Not a dictatorship. An alliance of equals working together for mutual defense and prosperity." She gestured to the delegates. "Each of your worlds has a voice in this council. Each species has equal representation. We make decisions together, not through force but through cooperation." Counselor Myra, representing the Caltharians, stood to speak. "For 200 years my people suffered under Vrexian rule. We thought we would die as slaves. But humanity showed us another way. They fought not for conquest, but for freedom. They risked their own lives to save ours." She looked directly at Jiwan. "We will never forget this. And we will stand with you, whatever comes." Other delegates stood, voicing similar commitments. Species that had been enemies now worked together, united by their shared experience of Vrexian oppression and human liberation, on the bridge of his personal ship. High Executor Tharn, no longer an executor of anything, watched the ceremony via broadcast. He was traveling to Earth, where he would face trial for his crimes. He knew he would likely spend the rest of his life in prison, but he also knew he deserved it. He had ordered the death of 40,000 innocents. He had believed might made right. He had learned, too late, how wrong he was. "Do you regret it?" Ralph asked. He had chosen to accompany Tharn to Earth, to testify on behalf of those Rexians who had opposed the war. "Every moment," Tharn said quietly. "I regret not listening when wiser voices urged caution. I regret believing we were invincible. Most of all, I regret the people who died because of my arrogance." He looked at the image of Earth growing larger on the view screen. "I attacked their home, and they responded by freeing the galaxy. That is the difference between them and us. We used our power to enslave. They used theirs to liberate." Months later, at the memorial in Bazun, Jihun stood once again before his sister's name. This time he was not alone. Hundreds of people had come to pay their respects. Some had lost family members. Others had come to honor those who had died. A young girl, no more than 8, approached Jihun. She held a flower in her hand. "Excuse me, sir," she said shyly. "My teacher said you were the ambassador, the one who told the aliens we would not surrender." Jihun knelt down to her level. "Yes, I am. My mommy died in the attack," the girl said. "But teacher says because of you and the others I get to grow up free. Is that true?" Jihun felt his throat tighten. "Yes, your mother and all these people, they did not die for nothing. We made sure of that." The girl placed her flower at the base of the memorial. "Thank you." As Jihun watched her walk away, he felt Admiral Boram's hand on his shoulder. "You saved the galaxy?" Boram said quietly. "You know that, right?" Jihun shook his head. "I did not save it. All of us did. Every person who refused to give up. Every soldier who fought. Every civilian who endured. We saved it together." He looked up at the stars, visible even in the daylight. "The Vrexians thought attacking our home would make us weak. Instead, it made us realize what we were capable of. It made us understand that we had a responsibility, not just to ourselves, but to every species that could not defend itself." "And now?" Boram asked. "Now we build," Jihun said. "We build a galaxy worth living in. We build alliances that protect the weak. We build institutions that prevent the strong from abusing their power. We build a future where what happened here never happens again." He touched his sister's name on the memorial one last time. "That is how we honor them. Not through revenge, but through creating something better." As the sun set over the rebuilt city, people gathered at the memorial. They came from all over Earth and from worlds across the galaxy. They came to remember the 40,000 who died. They came to celebrate the freedom that had been won, and they came to renew their commitment to ensuring that never again would any species have to face the choice between slavery and death. Because humanity had shown the galaxy a third option: resistance, freedom, justice. "You attacked our home," Jihun had told the Vrexians. "And in doing so, you awakened something you could not imagine. You awakened the will of people who refused to kneel. You awakened the determination of those who have survived every challenge their world threw at them. You awakened humanity, and the galaxy would never be the same."